Hey friends, this is David Bedrick. I'm going to be talking a little bit about trauma and abuse and shame. And if there are folks here that have questions, I'll focus on your questions. Hey, Monica and others. Hey, Katie Littman, good to have you around. I'm just going to do some Q&A around trauma, abuse, and shame. If people have questions, I will start answering them pretty soon. I'll just wait a minute or two. And if you have a question, put it in that question place. Otherwise, I have to scroll and find it. Hey, I want redress. Hey, Annie. All right, we just had a little connection. Glad you're here. Hey, Jana. Good to have you here. Yeah. If people have any questions in particular around this topic of trauma, abuse, and shame, I'm happy to address those. There are a couple of things that I've been thinking about, well, many things I've been thinking about. I'm in the middle of a 6-week course, and then some people asked, could I do something for a lower cost, that's in my New York accent, lower cost and shorter. So I thought about what I could do in a single a red dress. It's a poem. Oh, I see. Oh, cool. Kim Adanzio. I don't know. Kim Adanzio. Okay, I'll have to look. I'm in the middle of doing that, and I decided to do a 1-session program and thought, what can I do to help people the most? And I thought, lay out the I'm a mess today. The preparatory, I haven't spoken yet, I haven't used my voice, the preparatory issues, because there are things that need to get taken care of before one enters into the depth. Now, what is entering into the depth? Entering into the depth means a number of things. One, I'm going to go into the experience of what it was like for me to be victimized, right? So some people want to go into that territory. It's a really important territory. But it's dangerous to walk in alone with certain other people and by oneself without knowing where one is. And because trauma disorients us, right? It dissociates us. Even when we're not thinking, I'm dissociated, I'm gone, we're disconnected from many of our deeper experiences and our truth and our ability to see clearly. So that would be like, imagine if I was a little bit dissociated and not really clear, and I was your therapist and was going to help you, and I was in the middle of my own stuff, and you were like bringing things up. I'm not able to help you navigate because I'm in the middle of something. I'm not connected to my clear eyes. I'm not close to my clear feelings, my clear kind of love and care for you and the unshaming of you. So a lot of people have that internally. So that's why I wanted to bring that issue up. There's a couple of things that I have been really moved by in my 6-week course. We're going into our 5th week. Some people might be still interested and can get the recordings, but I'm not here to pitch that particular program. But I'm trying some different things that have been on my mind in addition to the teachings and skills that I have been writing about and focusing on for the last few decades. And one of them has to do with hopelessness. And I tried an exercise for my students, taking them into hopelessness. That means not trying to bring hope, but allowing hopelessness to go deep. And what happens when hopelessness is allowed to be there, allowed to grow, to unfold and flower? It goes into a surrender and a giving up, a kind of a death, I'm calling that. I'm not suggesting people literally die. I think you all know that. But that was a fascinating, somebody else said that hopelessness thing was really powerful. So that was a really incredible thing that many people wrote to me about, how beautiful it was in their healing to let a little quote-unquote death in. Does that make sense? Let in a little hopelessness. And what happens when we let go of trying to even get somewhere, to heal, to fix ourselves? A little space gets made for certain things that that you might not have had before. I wanted to say a word about client-centered. A lot of wellness folks talk about being client-centered, that means their medicine, as it were, is focused on the client as opposed to, I don't know what, as opposed to on the healer or the therapist. And I think very few models of healing are entirely client-centered. Let me give you the perspective that I have. The perspective I have is, somebody said, please help me. Write a question down, please, and I will do my best to bring that my answer in. One of the reasons it's hard to be entirely client-centered for most of the healing industry is most of the wellness and healing folks have an idea about what healing looks like. So let's say you come to a person saying, I have procrastination, and that person will say, okay, I have a program or a protocol or a way to address procrastination so that procrastination stops. Or another, you might say, I have anxiety. Then the person says, I have an anxiety medicine healing approach. And the idea is to get you over the anxiety so you're less anxious. You get the idea? So almost all healing modalities have the notion that you're bringing a problem, and if I can make the symptoms of that problem go away, I'm helping you. But that often is not entirely client-centered, because if you're client-centered, then you have to drop your idea of what healing looks like and follow the client. Does that make sense? Like, for instance, I just gave the example about hopelessness. So if somebody says they're hopeless and I say, I have a medicine for that, I can help bring back your hope, then I have an agenda. And the agenda excludes saying, let's go into the hopelessness, allow yourself to be more hopeless, go all the way into that, feel a kind of a death that lives in there. Or if you're anxious, go into that anxiety, let that anxiety grow. What comes? Is it a strong movement that looks more like power? Is it a vulnerability? So an UnShaming approach says it's truly client-centered, because I'm assuming that there's an intelligence in you that doesn't need to be corrected, but needs to be gone into more deeply, so that we find the medicine that lives in the client, not my idea of the medicine and not my idea of what a good healing would look like. One more thing about the lack of client-centeredness, the agendas that people have in the healing industry, even if they're good. I want to help you feel better. I want to help you not have headaches. I want to help you have good relationships. I understand that. But one of the problems is in the background, there's a kind of a colonized, normalized, socialized agenda. Listen to those words: colonized, normalized, socialized, normalized. Well, if you're anxious, normal is to be less anxious. Does that make sense? Why? Because there's a point of view about what a person should be to be productive and a member of society, etc. Right? So, and to get along with people. So those three things, the colonization, the socialization, normalization, tend to go together. And they're not conscious or intentional, but they're in the background of many healing ideas, because they're trying to get you over things. Why? Well, so you can be in less pain, but also so that you can fit in easier, which can be good in certain ways, but also diversity, not diversity loving. Okay. Somebody asks Bunny and two cats, what's the best way to deal with the anger and rage over knowing justice will never be had? Let's assume that justice can never be had in whatever the situations you're talking about, right? Sometimes it can, but sometimes not, and sometimes not within generations. We've seen that so many times. So what do you do? If something can't be changed, and we're making that assumption, some people say it can be changed, but let's hold the assumption that it can't, and there's still power in you, rage in you, fire in you. That means that you are a person who's on fire, and you need to learn how to live more on fire, not live burning yourself up and damaging yourself or damaging the wrong people, but learn to wield, to hold, to make an ally of fire, because that justice won't happen. That means it becomes a life. When a person can't heal any particular symptom, whether it's a chronic migraines, whether that's anxiety, whether that's rage, whether that's paranoia. If you can't get over a symptom, then you have to become it more and make it into an ally, and then it doesn't go away. It becomes your life in a deep way. Not to walk around angry and raging all the time, but to have contact with that, to write through that, to speak through that, to engage in the world through that, to understand fire and how it burns. So that's going to be a project that you live not only inside, but you must live inside around the injustice that's happening, the internalized oppression, the internalized injustice that's happening. You have to get in touch with that if you're going to live that intelligently. So I'm not thinking it's just out there, but it's also in me. No, it's not in you and not out there. It's really in you. It's both, but you'll become a better wielder of the fire as you learn about the fire within, where you need to burn things inside that are hurting you, that are unjust, and how to use that fire in the clearest way to produce heat ultimately and to produce some more love in the world. Yeah. How do we go into the deeper intelligence alone? Elizabeth Lee. Well, that's not always easy. If it's a really deep difficulty, a deep wound, you got to be very careful. And the way to do that is to get in touch with the part of you that knows whether you're okay going into something. Does that make sense? So first I ask myself, how do I know whether something is not right for me? And then check your body. Oh yeah, I get a stiffness. I get a tightness in my jaw. I get nervousness in my solar plexus. So you get in touch with your knowingness first in your body. My solar plexus tend to know. My jaw knows because when the wrong thing is happening for me, that happens. Now plan to work on yourself. Don't do it yet. And then ask your body, I'm about to go work on myself. Is this right for me? And you check those inner feelings. And if those inner feelings say yes, continue. If those inner feelings say, no, this is what comes up when something's not right for me, then you say clearly and consciously, even out loud, I will not go further. This is not right for me. And then one more thing, you have to realize doing that over and over is the work for you. To say no to something that's happening is such an important thing and such an important healing, because otherwise shame enters. I think, well, I'm not letting it happen. I'm not letting it happen. That is letting it happen. Okay, that's number one. Number two, working somatically really helps. Do not spend a lot of time thinking of things, journaling about things, sitting still and trying to figure things out. You will almost always, if it's a deep issue that arises from abuse and trauma, you'll almost always be cycling in a place where you're not seen well, and you won't get to healing places, and you're likely to get injured and wear yourself down and exhaust yourself. Okay? So you need to have enough distance, right? The body can allow that, going into the body. So you can start something very simple. What do I feel today? I'm feeling a little headachy. You might feel something else. You ask yourself that question. And if it's not right to go deeply into that feeling in the moment, and for many people it's not, ask yourself the next question. When did I feel this earlier in my life? What does this feeling remind me of? And let it bring a story up into your mind. And then tell that story out loud to a person, to yourself. Now you can journal or something, but you're not journaling a figuring out self-examination. You're telling the story, because telling a story allows you to be a subject, not an object of shame that's looked at as a problem, but a subject. So getting in touch with the story can be a really good beginning. Okay, let me look and see if there are other questions. Royson Whittington. In one of your recent posts, you said the problems with the eyes is common occurrence for SA survivors. I'm not sure what you mean by an SA survivor. Please, I'm not so good at letters like that. Why is this? I have had a twitching eye for close to a year from now, and as much as I try to turn into the twitch's wisdom, nothing arises. Okay, well, SA, I'm guessing is sexual abuse, but forgive me if I'm getting that wrong. If your eye is twitching, there's two things that you can try. One is use your hand. Let's say my eye's twitching, like this. So now use your hand and let it do the twitching motion, as if your hand were an eye. Now when you start doing that, allow your hand, please try that in the moment, because it'll help you to learn a little bit. I won't get you far enough because I'm not seeing you, but it'll help you learn. So you're going twitch, 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 it's shaking maybe. And then once your hand is doing that, allow your arm to be more like that. Twitch, 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 twitch. Can you follow what I'm doing? I'm now making my hand and arm into the instrument, the expression of that twitching. And now do that with your body. Both arms and your body. And let your body twitch, so to speak, and make that shaking. We're going to relieve the eye of being the only expression of that and let the whole body do that, and then continue to amplify. And then let it keep going as if it could go so far, so free. Noise and movement and feeling, all of that, and let it go really far. And then ask yourself, what would it be like to express myself more like that? I'm not saying you should. What would it be like? What kind of energy lives in you? If you're not sure, that's okay. Stop, take a break, bow to the body for allowing you to express it, and then try it again another time. So that's how that's one way of working with that won't get you caught, because we're bringing in what I call radical soma, somatic experience as a feeling experience. That's what most people think of as somatic experience. Movement experience, which gets added to that somatic experience, and voice, all those together help you get more clear. Okay. Hey, Annie, how to find it in me to trust people again in a small town that has only hurt me? Well, Annie, I'm an unshaming person, and if a person says, how do I get over distrust? I never, ever try to help them get over distrust as my initial agenda. Then I'm going along with an idea that you don't need that distrust, and you need to be more connected to it. So if I were working with you, I'm not suggesting I should do that, or people should work with me one-on-one, just to be clear. But if I were working with you, then I would say, please allow yourself to be distrustful. Feel what it's like. Look around the room from a distrustful eye. Play with it like a child who's distrustful, and exaggerate it. Make it into a little theater. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? You could see certain people, but allow that distrust to blossom more. Get to know it, make it into an ally, not just a problem, so that the distrust becomes more accurate. Because distrust itself is not a problem. It's the fact that distrust, if it's not skilled, it doesn't know how to trust and where to trust and when not to trust. So that means you need to get more in touch with it. If someone says, trust me, or let me help you get rid of that distrust, it will disarm you, and you're in a dangerous situation, and you don't want to be disarmed. You want to make your distrust more intelligent. Does that make sense? So I would try that. If someone said to me, how do I know I can trust you, David? I would say, let's start by you distrusting me. Check me out. See if there's something that doesn't fit for you. Is it the fact that I'm male? Is it the way I talk? Is it whatever, that I also promote my programs? Whatever it is, believe yourself. I'm not saying I'm worthy of distrust or not. I'm saying you're worthy of trusting your distrust until it becomes more unfolded and wise as an ally. Yeah, a lot of the world wants people to get over their distrust. That's not unshaming. Yeah. Heike Bawazir. Do we witness as separate observer, or observer is the observed? I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but I would begin witnessing as a separate observer. That means if you're working on an abuse scene, bring to mind that abuse scene. I like people to draw it so that you can stand back from it and allow your body to stand back and away from that scene. Don't go in and start thinking about it, because you won't be, your observer eyes and mind and heart will be partially wrapped up inside and won't be clear. Step back, step back, step back, and look at it from a distance at first. Describe it from a distance. Even describe yourself and what you were feeling from a distance at first. We need that dissociative intelligence. Why do I call that dissociative? Because dissociation distances a person from an experience. I remember watching a teacher of mine work with somebody who got badly burned, and we took that person back into the fire, and they had to first be really far back, because when they start going into the fire, they're they're all in it, and there's nobody home inside of them that can help them with that. That's not really helpful. So first, create distance. If people start to just go, oh, this is what I felt and this is what happened to me, you're going to get lost. Eventually, we have to go into what happened to you from the victimized place. But if you start there, people will get hurt. I've seen it too often. Jana, hey David. I have a hard time unshaming justice because I have a hard time accepting that I deserve justice, because it requires accepting I was treated badly, and I internalize the abuse and also let that out. How to approach that? You got to approach that slowly. You got to know that one part of you doesn't believe or feel that they deserve justice. Get to know that part. Speak out loud from it. I don't deserve justice. This is why I wasn't really badly treated. People didn't mean it. Speak that voice out loud. Make it clear. And then put that aside and bring out the part of you that disagrees. A part of you must, or you wouldn't have been able to name the problem. You just were thinking, I don't deserve justice. Some party was not only in that scene and thinks that's a problem. Now let this side speak. I do deserve justice, or this is wrong. That's not good. Here's why. So you're beginning to speak from that side and then go back and forth a little bit. But I don't deserve justice. Here's why that doesn't make sense and is not right. So I would go back and forth in that dialogue for a maximum of 5 minutes. Don't do that for an hour unless you're writing a book. Go back and forth and then stop. Always end with the part that knows she deserves justice. Put it away and do it again the next day. And it'll start to build a power inside of you that's different from this part. We don't have to change them. We just have to add another part in you that already exists. Okay, is there more questions? I don't know. Let's see. Sasha. Hey, Sasha, Morningstar. First steps to take to no longer be in codependent relationships and release hypervigilance when it started so young in childhood. Okay, those are two questions, the hypervigilance and the codependence. Let's take the hypervigilance first, because I already referred to something like that. If you came to me and said, how do I get over my hypervigilance? I would say, first we start by working ourselves into consciously, intentionally being hypervigilant. Because hypervigilance that's difficult is coming in and taking over, and you're not having conscious control over whether to be vigilant or not. Vigilance is intelligence. Hypervigilance is intelligent. Why? Because there are moments to be more vigilant than you might normally need. So we would start as the way I described with the distrust. Become consciously now. We don't want it to be unconsciously just taking over. Then you'll just get lost in it. That's a problem that you're having. But we have to start by unshaming. Start by saying, what's it like to be hypervigilant? Stand up. Look around. Make a hand motion. I got my eyes on you. I'm not going to look away. Say words. Feel it. Say words and make body movements that are consistent with being hypervigilant. I got my eyes on you. No, I'm not taking my eyes off. No, I'll never go to sleep. I'll just watch you because I'm not letting you get away with something. And let that voice and intelligence and movement and feeling grow. Become more like that. Walk around like that. Do a hypervigilant dance around your room. I see you. I see you. Get to know it and enjoy it until you get some space around it. You won't get space around it very well by trying to overcome it. First, you have to get to know it. It'd be like, let's say you had a child who was really frightened. Some children need to be calmed down, but if the child has information about a story and something that happened, you'll calm them down and they'll go right back into that as soon as you're not there or at a later moment. You'd first have to say, you're frightened, you're scared. What are you scared of? Of course you're frightened. You're frightened for good reason. First, we validate the being and its experience. In the other case, distrust, and in this case, hypervigilance. Codependence. A whole big question about codependence. I'm trying to think. I have very specific ideas about codependence. Codependence is a dependency. Well, that's why it's called codependence. Codependence is an addictive tendency, just like any addictive tendency, just like alcohol is an addictive tendency or a full-on addiction, okay? So codependence is an addictive tendency. Alcohol, let's imagine alcohol. Alcohol has a need in it. I'm not saying alcohol is a good way to achieve the need, but alcohol has a need in it. It has a need to relax. It has a need to be free to speak. It has a need to get sad. It has a need to socialize because I'm too shy. So I'm using the alcohol as an ally, not effectively. Alcohol is not the best ally, but people use it to get in touch with a state that is a valid state, not the alcohol valid, the state they're trying to achieve. Now, the codependent is not using alcohol. They're using relationship, right? So they're drinking. You could say they're drunk on relationship. That means they can't see clearly in relationship, just like an alcoholic can see clearly, right? So the codependent is a little drunk in relationship, but they have a valid need. And what is the valid need? That's the problem with getting over codependence. If you just say, I shouldn't be this way, some people can get far with that, but it usually comes back because the valid need is not clarified. So how do you get in touch with that? I'd have to actually work with you to do that, but let me give you a clue that helps many people. If your codependence, I'm being nice to you and putting myself away, could achieve its goal, making you into the perfect partner, making you into someone who never hurts me, having you treat me in a special way. Does that make sense? I'm being codependent towards you, and if that worked, then you would become a person that gives me something I really need. I'm not saying codependence does work. This is the question, the inquiry that's worthy of making. And what would that person be giving you, and what is that need? It doesn't mean that person can give it to you, or you should look to it for that person, but you have to get in touch with what it is you're so hungry for that you would put yourself away. Okay, I'll take one or two more, and then I'm going to move on. I can realize I'm tired. Welcome, creepy cat army, I think. How do you heal when you have an inability to speak on your experience? Whew. Deep. Yeah, the voice is missing. So there's two things I'm thinking. One is voice work would be good. What do I mean by voice work? Take songs, music that moves you, that has an emotional feeling, and sing them out loud, and do at least a little singing every day. That can be really helpful just to exercise the voice box and do something that is either beautiful or sad or angry, and mix that up, right? Sad songs, beautiful songs, loving songs, fiery, powerful, angry songs. Find those and sing those. We want to get the voice more activated without putting you down. The second thing, you have to learn, you can learn to work with what I call radical Soma, the body experiences. So you feel the experience that you can speak about, feel it in the body. This is what the experience is like. Begin to move your hands that express that thing. Let's say my body is shaking, I would shake. Let's say my body is tight, I would tight. Let's say my body is a sharp pain, I would go sharp. Does that make sense? Let's say there's heat and my acid in me, I would go whoosh, whoosh. So I'm feeling it, moving my body, and making noise. Ya, shoo, shoo, rawr. Oh, scared. So you want to do that and then make a dance out of that. You don't have to make words. That will come when it's time. We don't have to force that, but let your body, through its feeling, movement, and voice, express itself in a dance. Don't overdo that, 5-7 minutes at maximum, and then stop and do it again another day. You'll start to befriend that experience, and voice will come when the time is right. Okay, let's see if there's any more questions. I'm not sure. I think I might have. I got the ones that were there. Some people may have asked questions on the chat thing, and I might not have got to it. Oh, Royce, thank you, so powerful. Appreciate that. Annie says, incredibly helpful. Thank you. Oh, I'm glad. Thank you. Heike says, just seeing if I can scroll and find any. You share wisdom so digestibly and accessibly, David. Oh, thank you. Agree, accessible and refreshing. Yeah, it's my intention over whatever. I've been teaching for 38 years, is it? Maybe a little longer. So I used to be, and I still can be a little bit more academic, which is fine, but my hope is to reach people in their intimate experience. Miriam, I appreciate how I see the sacredness of all experiences human in your perspective. Yeah, all experience is intelligence. Nature is intelligent, right? The bees pollinate by going into the flowers, and on the worms dig in the earth, and the bats shit seeds, and things grow, and everything is woven into a kind of perfection in nature. Many of us see that. We are also part of nature, and we have a nature. I have a nature. That means there's something that's woven in to how I am and the world and people around me. So that intelligence lives in us. There's a divine intelligence that lives in us. I'm not saying everything we do is divine and people can't be disgusting and ugly and awful. I'm saying that if we get close to the nature of our experience and the deeper experience, we'll find nature in that, in her beauty. Welcome. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that was helpful. Somebody said it seems the voice question can be a wounded inner child that needs rescued. Is that the same as feeling in the body and the sounds you made to bring out? I don't start by assuming, though, that's a wounded inner child. It might be, it might not. If I start with the feeling body because I trust it, I don't start with an idea. I have ideas about wounded child, by the way. But when I'm working with someone, I don't think, oh, that's a wounded child. I start with the body because I want that person to trust their experience, not my ideas. And if out of that movement and that voice and that feeling, I see something and I say, oh, who are you? And the person says, I'm a little child. Then I think they experience themselves and name themselves as a wounded child. I might bring that idea in at that point. Oh, how old are you? I might say, if I'm thinking that. And if the person says, oh, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Or if the person says, I'm an old woman. Or if the person says, that happened to me last week. Or if a person says, I'm a little child. Then, can you follow? So I'm not leading the client. I'm making sure that the intelligence comes out of them. Because it's so important to me that they believe in themselves and trust themselves more than they trust me. Yeah. Phew. Hey, friends, thank you so much. Tomorrow, Tuesday, at 11:30 Pacific time, 2:30 Eastern time, is my next class. It's a 3-hour, people call it master class. I never liked that word, but whatever. It's a class where I'm going to teach people some of the basic techniques to make sure you're safe when you're working on trauma. I'm going to teach 3 different things: some understanding, some awareness, and some skills. And hopefully I'll get to work with 1 or 2 people so I can model things different than here, where I can see you and actually work with some people. The link is in my bio, and if you want to join us, that would be great. We'll be going for 3 hours, so we'll have some real time to spend together. Lots of love. I wish you all the best, and get close to your nature and believe in yourself. Slowly and gently believe in even the difficult experiences, that they're intelligent. Not that you should suffer, right? But that this intelligence lives inside of you. Bye, everybody.